When I went to the hospital, Marcus was on a date with his first love. I looked at the cancer diagnosis report in my hand. It wasn't mine, it was Marcus. I called him. Before I could even speak, Marcus impatiently said, "Stop throwing a tantrum. She and I are just having a fling." I hesitated, words catching in my throat. Marcus didn't know yet that he was dying. Marcus's date with his first love was caught by the paparazzi. It quickly became one of the trending topics. Summit CEO dating actress's relationship. Chloe was laughable. Marcus and I had been married for 3 years, but no one knew he even had a wife. Now, he was hitting the trending topics with Chloe because of a date. A voice interrupted my thoughts. "Ms. Grace, the reports are ready." Closing the door, the doctor handed me 2 reports. One was mine, and one was Marcus. I had a habit of getting a full physical examination every year, but Marcus didn't. This checkup was forced by Marcus's mother. He rushed through it carelessly and even forgot to pick up the report. I casually flipped through my report. As expected, with my daily workouts and regular diet, I was as healthy as could be. I didn't plan to look at the other report. I wasn't concerned about Marcus's health. The doctor suddenly spoke. "Your husband's condition is quite serious. I'd like to speak with you privately." Hearing this, my fingers paused and a sudden curiosity arose. I pulled out Marcus's report and immediately turned to the last page. In black and white, it starkly read, "Stage 4 lung." My mind went blank for a moment. That photo on the trending topics, the cancer diagnosis report. Combining the two created an absurd sense of magical realism. I met Marcus when he was at his lowest point. At the time, I was still the eldest daughter of the Shin family, living a life of boundless glamour. He had just been dumped by his first love and was so poor he could only afford a basement apartment. Honestly, with his talent, a bright future was within reach if he just humbled himself before his superiors. That's exactly what I advised him to do. But he just hugged his design blueprints and smiled at me. He said, "A local optimum isn't necessarily a global optimum." A hint of his soaring ambition was discernible in his words. At the time, I refused to return to my family's business and insisted on building my own career because I had a point to prove. I had a keen grasp of the market, and he possessed bold decisiveness. We clicked instantly, pooled all our savings, and founded a company. The early days of our startup were the hardest. I was out running errands until exhaustion, and he was at business dinners drinking until his stomach bled. We'd heard the sound of the printer working late at night and seen the 5 a.m. sun. The day the company officially turned a profit, we sat at a greasy spoon diner by the roadside. He drank glass after glass until he was completely drunk, then leaned on my shoulder, sobbing uncontrollably. In the cold wind, we embraced and wept. That moment was arguably the closest we ever came to being in love. Later, the company grew. The day our IPO application was approved, he proposed to me. I should have been moved to tears. But the day before the proposal, I found his chat history with Chloe. Chloe asked him, "Can we go back to how we were?" Marcus was silent for a long time before saying, "I can't betray her." He didn't say, "I don't want to, but I can't." It was never a unique love for me that stopped him, but rather his unyielding moral boundary that he applied to everyone. Looking back, he would brave the cold to buy me cold medicine, quietly remember my preferences, and thoughtfully prepare breakfast. But he had never once said, "I love you." I had considered letting go, letting them be together, and even planned out the subsequent stock division and exit strategy. But I couldn't swallow my pride. I came from a prominent family but refused an arranged marriage, opting instead to start a business with a poor guy. 4. I cut ties with my family, all to prove them wrong. Having come this far, I had no way back. In the 3rd year of our marriage, Chloe returned from abroad. Her first act upon returning was to give a media interview. I once failed someone who loved me wholeheartedly. I've returned now, hoping to stand in the spotlight and let him see me. On the big screen, her eyes brimmed with tears, a breathtakingly beautiful sight. I didn't miss Marcus's momentary distraction. Chloe was right, she indeed stood in the spotlight, allowing Marcus to see her. No one knew better than I did. Once the foundation was shaken the first time, there would be a second, and a third. Boundaries would continuously erode. So, when I saw Marcus's message, I wasn't surprised. Let's meet. Okay. I wasn't intentionally eavesdropping on their date. That day, I was in a bad mood and found a secluded corner in a cafe, hoping to relax, only to discover Marcus and Chloe were there too. Chloe was talking, and Marcus was listening. She spoke of how they were each other's first loves, of their shyness when they first held hands, and of the wonderful time they spent on the college campus. Not once mentioning the fact that Marcus was married. As spoke, she grew emotional, large tears rolling down her cheeks. She was beautiful when she cried, her tears glistening, looking utterly helpless. I subconsciously compared myself. I never cried like that. Or rather, I rarely cried. My mother once told me that tears expose one's weaknesses, but that doesn't mean crying is useless. The weaker party can use tears to guide negotiations and achieve their goals. Crying is essentially a tactic for the weak, a path I had always disdained. But clearly, Marcus fell for it. Facing the tearful Chloe, his heart softened. Chloe sensed this softening and threw herself into Marcus's arms. Marcus's body stiffened, but he didn't push her away. Physical touch rekindled old memories. Marcus, can you forgive me? Leaving you back then was unavoidable. Chloe was, after all, special to Marcus. I heard him say in a hoarse voice, okay. Marcus and Chloe's interactions grew increasingly frequent. Marcus started coming home later and later, his trench coat always carrying a faint jasmine scent. At first, he would fob me off, perhaps I picked it up at a business dinner. Later, he would just coldly say, "Can you stop being so paranoid?" I almost laughed in anger, am I paranoid? Or are you just guilty? What man doesn't have business dinners? I'm so busy with the company I don't even have time to sleep, and you're at home doubting me. Why can't you be more understanding? He looked at me, his eyes filled with deep disappointment. What happened to the understanding grace I knew? How did you become like this? It's already a miracle I'm only with you. What man out there isn't having affairs? I stared at him in shock, as if seeing him for the first time. The proud young man who refused to conform to worldly ways, once shivering in thin clothes in the cold wind, now, with the passage of time, uttered, "What man out there isn't having affairs?" The absurdity was extreme. How had he become like this? Regaining my composure, I grabbed a vase nearby and hurled it at him. He shifted, dodging it. He looked down at me and said, "Don't be unreasonable." I looked at the shattered pieces on the floor. Marcus had paid a hefty sum for this ugly vase, and I'd hated it for ages. This was the perfect chance to smash it. It felt good. I waved him away, "Get out." Chloe liked jasmine perfume, which perfectly suited her image. She was known as the entertainment industry's sole pure white jasmine flower, and her public image had always been that of America's sweetheart. The media had always paid close attention to her relationships. When she gave interviews, the bashfulness and sweetness of being in love were clear on her face, impossible to hide. 7 years of separation haven't changed him, nor have they changed the unique understanding between us. I listened silently, lowering my gaze to my hands. The old Marcus used to be a bit childish. Whenever he landed a big client, he would instinctively get excited and want to high-five me. I looked at his outstretched hand, not quite grasping why. He seemed to realize something too, his expression fading slightly as he withdrew his hand. It turned out that was their thing, a shared understanding between him and Chloe. Looking back at the TV, the media asked, "So, are you currently in a relationship?" Chloe's mood instantly fell, and a hint of tears appeared at the corners of her eyes. Not yet. I stared intently at the beautiful face on the TV screen, and a bold suspicion suddenly formed in my mind. She must have known Marcus would watch her interview. She was putting on a show for Marcus. She wanted the relationship to advance, or perhaps, a formal title. And sure enough, I anticipated the ultimatum. Their dating photos hitting the trending topics was a blatant slap in my face. I would have two choices. Either I ripped off the facade and divorced Marcus, allowing her to take my place legitimately, or I endured it, and her subsequent actions would only become more brazen, giving her the de facto status of a wife without the official title. It was indeed a good strategy. If only. If there hadn't been this cancer diagnosis report. I lowered my gaze, looking at the report in my hand. I asked the doctor, how long does he have to live? 3 months, at most. The corners of my lips curled upward almost imperceptibly. The doctor looked at me again, perhaps thinking he'd misread my expression, but by then I had already composed myself. I even began to wipe away fake tears. How could this happen? If he dies, how will I go on living? The doctor thought, asterisk indeed. I must have been mistaken, asterisk, and comforted me, my condolences. Getting more into my act, I made to call Marcus. Beep, beep, he answered. Chloe's alluring voice came through the phone receiver. Who is it? Oh, Marcus impatiently said. Are you calling about the trending topics? Don't throw a tantrum. She and I are just having a fling. He hung up right after. The doctor and I exchanged glances. I vigorously wiped away non-existent tears from the corners of my eyes, lowered my head, and feigned sorrow. He's always like this. You must think it's a joke. Under the doctor's sympathetic gaze, I left the hospital. Heaven knew how hard I had to try to suppress the roaring laughter inside me. In just 3 months, I would inherit Marcus's inheritance. I couldn't wait to see his face when he found out the truth. Chloe hadn't expected me to simply tolerate it. I didn't even question Marcus, acting as if I'd never seen the trending topics. Since I didn't bring it up, Marcus wouldn't either. After all, divorce meant asset division, and he wouldn't want to lose that. Chloe grew restless and proactively asked to meet me. In the cafe, she rested her chin on one hand, her gaze filled with nostalgia. Perhaps you don't know the story between Marcus and me. I subtly raised an eyebrow. What kind of tactic was this? He and I met in college. Back then, he was still very green, wearing faded shirts, and even his love seemed humble. On our first date, he was so nervous. He carefully cupped my face and gently kissed me. Blushing, he swore to me that he would be good to me forever and spend all his earnings on me. I remained silent. So, the Marcus who told me, what man out there isn't having affairs, also swore to his beloved girl that he would only love her. If it weren't for your presence, Marcus and I would have legitimately married after I returned from abroad. Marcus doesn't love you at all. Because you interfered, 2 lovers couldn't be together. Don't you feel guilty? I let out a snort of laughter. Ms. Chloe, I pointed out unhurriedly, if it weren't for me, Marcus wouldn't have been able to start his company, and then you wouldn't have been interested in him, let alone married him. You. Chloe choked, unable to find a rebuttal. So what? You worked hard to build your company, but Marcus gives all the money he earns to me. Don't you find yourself ridiculous? Your husband's kissing photos with another woman are all over the trending topics, and you can still tolerate it? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? I thought you had some self-respect. You should step aside quickly now, yet here you are desperately clinging to a title. She stood up, towering over me in her heels, pathetic. I found it incredible. You think I'm pathetic because Marcus doesn't love me? I own 5 of Summit shares, worth over $1 billion. Who are you to pity me? What's the meaning of life for a woman, no matter how rich, without her husband's love? She caressed the diamond ring on her left ring finger, raised it, and showed it off to me. He bought this for me. It cost $70 million. I couldn't understand what she was so proud of. Everything spent on her was marital assets. As his wife, I would eventually sue and get it all back. He also recently transferred several properties into my name. I looked at her thoughtfully, smiling. Ms. Chloe, thank you for reminding me of something. Just because Marcus only had 3 months left to live didn't mean I could rest easy. I needed to prevent him from transferring his assets once he discovered his cancer. Public opinion online began to shift. An insider came forward, revealing that the CEO of Summit was married. Chloe, having been in the entertainment industry for so many years, was certainly skilled at clearing her name. She made a public statement, I didn't know they were together. On the screen, tears glistened at the corners of her eyes. When and I were together, we had some misunderstandings because of her, and that's why we broke up. After we separated, I went abroad for further studies and didn't follow their news. The reporters sensed a sensitive point. Who is she? Chloe almost choked. Grace, Marcus's current wife. Watching her statements, I almost wanted to applaud her. She shifted the blame onto me, subtly implying that I was the homewrecker and she was the victim. The problem was, when I met Marcus, she had already gone abroad. It was clearly her own gold digging, thinking Marcus was poor, that led her to break up with him. The firm netizens came in one after another, that is shameless. She seduced the CEO and actually climbed her way up. Support. She's the victim. Where's Grace? Come out. Homewreckers are disgusting. I was silent for a moment. I called Marcus directly, come back here. He replied impatiently, what do you want now? A divorce. I added. I've already contacted a lawyer. We'll get a property notarization. Of course, I had no intention of divorcing him, but I needed to trick him into getting the property notarized. To put his mind at ease, I volunteered that I would prioritize selling my shares to him, ensuring his decision-making power in the company remained unaffected. Furthermore, I would only take a small portion of the cash and real estate. He would still retain the majority. Marcus seemed a bit unconvinced. You'd really give that up? My damned acting bug bit again. I lowered my head and dabbed at my eyes. After so many years of tormenting each other, it's time for me to let go. I've thought about it a lot. There's no point in dragging this out. It's better to part ways gracefully. From this day forward, let us go our separate ways and each find happiness. To be honest, I felt a bit awkward, but didn't think so. He believed me. He, for once, felt a pang of guilt. Why don't you take a bit more? No need. Of course not. Why would I? It would all be mine in the end anyway. We went back and forth for several rounds, until even the lawyer grew impatient. Are you two done yet? Oops, I overdid the act. The day we went to collect the notarized document, Marcus was coughing severely. Actually, he'd been coughing for a few days, but he hadn't thought much of it. After all, he'd pushed himself so hard during the startup years. He'd gotten all sorts of minor illnesses. He assumed this time was no different. But this time, he coughed up blood. Blood continuously gushed from his mouth. He painfully collapsed to his knees, his throat letting out a raw, rasping sound. I very kindly called 911 for him. The hospital's diagnosis came quickly. Stage 4 lung. Marcus was an extremely intelligent man. He understood the entire situation almost instantly. He looked at me in disbelief. You knew all along. You tricked me into getting the property notarized? With less than 3 months left, and me watching his every move, there was no way he could transfer his assets to Chloe. I smiled at him. Hee. His eyes practically spat fire. He looked like he wanted to tear me apart. The next second, he lunged at me, intending to hit me. Luckily, I was prepared. At my command, bodyguards rushed in from behind the door and kicked him flying. He fell heavily to the floor, unable to bear it anymore, and spat out a mouthful of blood. I kindly reminded him, don't cough up any more blood. If you do, you won't even have 2 months left. Hearing this, Marcus spat out another mouthful of blood. Seeing his miserable state, I couldn't resist being a little cruel. Oh dear, with such poor emotional resilience, how can you possibly manage a company? Luckily, all your money, cars, houses, and the company will be mine. Whatever will I do? I don't even want this much money. Marcus lay sprawled on the floor, so furious he was close to passing out. Ring, the rang. It was Marcus's. He was too weak to answer. I picked it up and saw it was Chloe calling. I subtly raised an eyebrow and answered for him. As soon as it connected, Chloe's gentle voice came from the other end. Marcus, I continued to be cruel, mimicking Chloe's voice. Marcus, it was overly saccharine, each syllable drawn out as if it had 18 turns. What was that sound? I didn't speak. Chloe thought she had misheard and continued. Marcus, that villa I saw last time. I snorted with laughter. Yours dying, all the money will be mine. And you're still dreaming about that pathetic villa? Who's laughing? I remained silent. Never mind that. Marcus, I have some good news for you. Your old hagwife is being dragged on the trending topics. Oh? This is new. I quickly opened my phone and saw the trending topics were shocking. Elite Secrets, CEO and Firsthorn. Chloe tears Grace. Top comments. How does Grace have the nerve? All homewreckers should die. Well. Now I'm the homewrecker. I clapped my hands and turned to instruct my secretary, get the reporters here. The media quickly arrived. Their eyes were burning with anticipation. as if they'd spotted a huge scoop. Just as they were about to press me with sharp questions, I had my assistant hand them cash envelopes, one by one. Cash talks. I'm so rich. Why should I bother trying to prove my innocence like those novel heroines? I swept my gaze across the room, an elegant smile on my face. First, clarify the whole story, who the real homewrecker is. Second, dig up dirt on Chloe. If there's none, invent it. Dump all the mud on her. Third, don't let Marcus off the hook either. Find some dirt on him too. Are you kidding? They spread rumors about me. Why should I uphold justice? I clapped my hands, meeting adjourned. What a concise press conference, simply divine. The power of money was indeed formidable. When I woke up the next day, I saw a deluge of scandalous revelations. Chloe evasion. I clicked on each one, reading with relish. The first article explained the whole story. The author's writing was excellent, vividly portraying Chloe's gold digging, her abandonment of her first love, and her eventual blaming of others. Netizens commented one after another, I misjudged Grace. Turns out Chloe is the homewrecker. She used to market herself as America's sweetheart. I think she's utterly heartless. Chloe, get out. How can someone be so shameless? I was delighted. Clapping my hands, reward them. Whoever wrote this news, it's brilliant. I'll give her a bonus. The second article exposed Chloe's atrocious behavior towards her assistant. She rolled her eyes at the assistant, then slapped her repeatedly, over a dozen times, until the assistant's face was swollen. Who does she think she is? Who does she think she is? What is Chloe anyway? Chloe, you bitch. I can't believe such a disgusting person exists in the world. I clapped again, reward them. The third article stated that Chloe had evaded taxes totaling $100 million, and would face administrative penalties from the tax authorities. Holy crap, $100 million in tax evasion, that's tax, not income, $100 million. Do celebrities make that much money? Undeserving of her status. Utterly shameless. I clapped until my hands were red, reward them. This was, in a way, doing a public service. After reading them all, I scrolled down and found another article. Chloe in bed. I told them to invent things, but not that ridiculous, right? I clicked on it, and good heavens, it wasn't made up. Chloe, I genuinely didn't realize you had such peculiar habits in private. I clicked on it with a sense of morbid fascination and began to read. It turned out it was exposed by one of Chloe's ex-boyfriends. The story was that one day he woke up in bed and found his girlfriend next to him, doing something in a strange posture. He observed closely. It was actually. After finishing Chloe's dirt, I moved on to Marcus's. This was far more intense than Chloe's. Marcus fraud Marcus, I clicked my tongue in wonder. It was quite a feat to commit almost every crime an entrepreneur could. There was also one that was most interesting. How Marcus got rich. Curiously, I clicked on it. It described Marcus navigating among wealthy women, using his body to develop his company. Even under strict website censorship, it still managed to imply a lot, reading more like a fan fiction post than actual news. Of course, I knew it wasn't true. But who cared? In the tide of the internet, people were swept away by emotional currents. The truth no longer mattered. Most of the comments below were filled with righteous indignation. So shameless, how could he do that? A spineless man. If I were him, I'd have no face to live in this world. But there were also a few weak voices. Am I the only one who's envious of him? To be a man who achieved this, he's a success. I burst out laughing. Just as I was about to continue reading, my phone rang. My assistant, we've already filed a lawsuit against Ms. Chloe. The lawsuit, of course, was to get the money back, including the $70 million diamond ring she once flaunted to me, the numerous properties and luxury cars in her name. All of it was marital assets. The total estimated value exceeded $300 million. On the day of the hearing, Marcus and Chloe attended together. Logically, Marcus should have been receiving treatment in the hospital. But perhaps he had accepted his fate. With only 2 months left to live, further treatment was pointless, so he might as well come to support his first love. After not seeing him for several days, his physical condition had worsened. His face was severely swollen, yet his body was skeletal. He coughed incessantly, almost unable to breathe. When looked at him, a flicker of disgust crossed her eyes. Understandable. For a dying man, his only remaining value was money. Marcus had money, so he hired a renowned lawyer for her. But I also had money, so I directly hired an entire team of lawyers. Besides, the law was on my side, victory was inevitable. All assets were to be returned. Chloe gnashed her teeth in hatred, almost lunging at me to tear me apart. But my bodyguards kept their eyes fixed on her, preventing her from making any rash moves. In the end, she could only leave in furious resentment. However, an accident occurred as she was leaving. She was blocked by a crowd, a sea of people, unable to get through. Seeing her emerge, the crowd grew agitated, shouting insults. "Chloe! Get out! You bitch!" At first, I thought they were enemies, but after watching for a while, I realized they were her former fans. "I loved you for 3 years. How could you be this kind of person? Being a homewrecker, slapping people, tax evasion. How can you be so fake? So many of us believed you. Don't you feel guilty? Why don't you just die?" Chloe almost lost her footing in the shoving. Her eyes were full of disgust. "You're all just stupid. Besides, everyone for himself. I was just thinking about myself." These words ignited the crowd's fury. In the crowd, a girl, provoked, charged forward. Before anyone could react, she splashed something directly onto Chloe. In the nick of time, Chloe's mind went blank. Instinctively, she dragged Marcus beside her, using him as a shield. Soon, I knew what it was. The celebrity world's must-have for splashing people, concentrated sulfuric acid. Marcus's face began to smoke, his skin quickly corroding, turning white, then reddish yellow-brown. From his throat came the most piercing scream I had ever heard in my life. The immense burning sensation made him lose all reason, with only one thought in his mind, to lunge and snatch the bottle of acid, then desperately pour it all over Chloe. Chloe screamed, trying to escape, but he grabbed her hair tightly and forcefully slammed her head against the ground. The sulfuric acid flowed onto Chloe's face. She tightly clutched her eyes, the intense pain unbearable, her whole body convulsing as she shrieked miserably. I watched in fascinated wonder as the former lovers turned on each other. They had only themselves to blame. What goes around comes around. Both were eventually sent to the hospital. Being the kind person I am, I decided to pay them a visit. However, just as I reached the door, I heard arguing and the sound of things being smashed inside. "You used me as a shield. Why didn't I see how vicious you were before? Don't you love me? How could you be unwilling to take a hit for me? And did you ever consider me? Did you ever love me? If you really loved me, why did you abandon me and go abroad? Don't you have any self-awareness? You were so poor back then. What right did you have to ask me to suffer with you? So you only came back because I'm rich now, hoping to seduce me again? Was I seducing you? Weren't you the one desperately clinging to me? You. Marcus was too furious to speak. I listened with relish, accidentally bumping the door and making a sound. "Who's there?" Seeing that I had been exposed, I simply walked in. 2 figures, almost barely recognizable as human, turned towards me from the bed. Marcus's entire face was disfigured, and his upper vocal tract was damaged. He could only force out hoarse, guttural sounds from his throat. Chloe was slightly better, but not by much. Concentrated sulfuric acid had splashed into her eyes, corroding her corneas. She would spend the rest of her life in blindness. Though she couldn't see, her intuition told her it was me. She screamed hysterically, "Grace, what are you so smug about?" Any sudden movement would pull at her skin, causing her to shriek in agony. "You're just a bit luckier, that's all. You bitch, I'll kill you." I kicked her over. "Why are you screaming? You're so loud." I frowned, then immediately brightened. I pointed to my face. "What's this?" "This is smooth skin." I pointed to my eyes. "What's this?" "These are eyes that can see the beautiful world." I then pointed to my bank card. "What's this?" "This is money I can never spend. All of." How unbelievably happy I am. Marcus and Chloe, hearing my words, were so enraged they almost fainted. I came here out of kindness to visit you, and you're still cursing me? I'm truly hurt. I poked Marcus with my finger, comforting him. Look on the bright side. Though you're suffering worse than death now, you'll be dead very soon. Then I poked Chloe. Even though you're disfigured, the rest of your life will be even uglier than your face. Chloe tried to curse at me. You bitch. I punched her and looked down at her. What were you saying? Bitch. I punched her again. She fell silent. I was satisfied. Before he died, Marcus insisted on seeing me one last time. Unable to speak, he wrote. He was skeletal, racked by immense pain at all times. His hands trembled, barely able to hold the pen. I regret it. I subtly raised an eyebrow at the shaky words he wrote. Regret what? 2 lines of tears streamed from his eyes. I'm sorry for what I did to you. These past few days, I've constantly been reminiscing about the old times. The days we started our business and struggled together. When we were at our poorest, we could only afford 1 loaf of bread, but you'd rather go hungry and give the whole thing to me. We were so close back then. I miss it dearly. I was blind. I didn't see Chloe's true colors, that manipulative woman, and it ended up destroying me. If I could do it all over again, I couldn't stand it anymore and punched him directly. He fell backward, staring at me in disbelief. I scoffed, Marcus, you're almost dead, and you're still acting like a jerk. I held up a finger at him. First, your regret isn't because of the harm you caused me, but because of your own miserable end. You're utterly selfish. Second, you don't actually feel sorry for me. You're constantly talking about my sacrifices, my altruistic nature, because that benefits you. You lost a simp, so of course you regret it. Third, you don't need to hate Chloe. Because, I flashed him a smile. Because you toxic man and manipulative woman, a match made in hell, may you be locked together in the afterlife. I landed one last hard punch on him. After died, I inherited his inheritance. Now, I seem to have the confidence to return to the Shin family and face the people I should call parents. But in the end, I felt a mix of longing and apprehension upon returning home. The day I cut ties, I smashed everything I could in the house, screaming hysterically. You just saw me as a tool for an arranged marriage. You never cared about me. I hate you. My father in my memory remained silent, while my mother always sneered. No explanations, no rebuttals, no acceptance. And just like that, the emotional ties that had bound me since childhood finally broke. Walking back along the long road of memory, many details had blurred. Perhaps I didn't truly love Marcus. Another possibility was that I saw him as a lifeline to escape my family of origin. In this war with my parents, without a doubt, I had won. I had proven myself. Even if Marcus hadn't died, Summit would still have been partly mine. From an economic standpoint, it generated far greater value than an arranged marriage ever would have. Yet, inwardly, I didn't feel triumphant. Winning, or losing, seemed to hold little meaning anymore. I had secretly looked at their photos. My mother had wrinkles, and my father's temples were streaked with gray. Never had it been clearer to me than in that moment. My parents were old. It was then that I suddenly felt there was nothing wrong with going back to see them. They wouldn't scold me like before. After all, they were old. Meeting them in person was different from just seeing photos. The moment I saw them, a deep-seated ache, like thorny vines, grew, entwined itself, and pierced my heart. A sudden panic seized me. What should I say? What should I do? After years apart, everything felt unfamiliar. I reverted to that timid child, lowering my head in front of my parents, utterly at a loss. But none of that mattered compared to them squinting at me, and with a long, drawn-out call, saying, "Welcome home." My nose suddenly stung. A child with parents always has a home. I, too, had wandered for too long. No one ever told me what to do once the story ended. My mother's hand stroked the top of my head, her voice a little hoarse. Perhaps you should go see the world. They used to show their love by keeping someone close. But now they were telling me to go see the world. To see the ocean stretching to the ends of the earth. To see a great snow that could bury all extinguished fires. To see the aurora borealis, a tapestry of all the world's brilliance and cold. Beyond betrayal, beyond anger, eyes could see so many other things. Go see the world. Many years later, I realized my experience, if it were in a novel, would be called the wife-chasing trope. A literal crematorium. Following the trope, if it were gender swapped, the rest of my life should be steeped in anguish, regretting why I had been so cruel to Marcus. Quite amusing. So I decided to go confess at his grave. The grave stood in the remote countryside, with a hazy village in the distance. Birds sang in the trees, and everything appeared as indistinct silhouettes. Ah, what a perfectly melancholic atmosphere. I began to recite, although I accidentally laughed when I found out you had cancer. I still loved you. You don't know how much I loved you. Seeing you with Chloe drove me insane with jealousy. I did many wrong things, all out of jealousy. It was a sign of my love for you. I yelled at you, I hit you. It was all to make you care about me. Every blow to you was a blow to my heart. I regret it. I shouldn't have treated you that way during the last period of your life. I recited most of it, then stroked my chin. So, this is what the male leads in the wife-chasing trope stories think? I continued with the final paragraph, delivering it with emphatic force. True, you lost your life, but I lost love. Though I have money, good looks, and a promising youth, the rest of my life is doomed to be lonely, full of regret, and painful. When you think about it, I'm actually the one who's more pathetic. I waved at the grave. Goodbye. I'm off to live out the lonely, regretful, and painful rest of my life. I had no idea that after Marcus died, his soul was trapped by the grave. So, naturally, I also didn't know that after hearing my confession, he was so angry he died again. If you were him, betrayed like this, would you give her a second chance? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more mind-blowing twists in the next episode.